with more on News Talk Saga 960. Mark Petroni with you, along with my friend Dave Scott of Spaced Out Radio. Dave, of course, is host of a terrific show on Saga 960 from 10 p.m. Eastern Time to 1 a.m. Eastern, and it is spine-tingling radio that will keep you up at night. He does tremendous work, great interviews, and I love having Dave on the show. We love doing this segment every Friday on Saga 960 on my show, just to get a taste of the kind of thing that Dave does every day, well, from Mondays through Fridays. And of course, you're at it on weekends as well, Dave. Welcome to the show.
Hey, it's always a pleasure to be with you, Mark. How you been, buddy?
Excellent. Fantastic, my friend. And lots to talk about because guess what? Canada now is being dragged into, or has been certainly briefed. The Canadian Defense Minister was briefed on UFOs ahead of the U.S. intel report. And this is ahead of the release of the much anticipated U.S. intelligence report on aerial phenomenon, that is unidentified aerial phenomenon. And former Canadian Defense Minister Harjit Sajjan received a briefing on UFOs. Of course, he didn't exactly have any kind of news conference about that. I'm sure you were wondering, why not? I mean, look, if he's going to get that kind of a briefing, doesn't it make sense that he would maybe talk to Canadians later through the media? What do you make of that one?
Well, Daniel Otis did a great job at bringing that story to light. And I'll tell you, we knew it was happening, Mark. It was nothing new. We knew that it was a matter of time. I had actually heard that back in 2019 that Sajjan, along with Prime Minister Trudeau, had been briefed by the former Canadian former Canadian ambassador to the United States, David McNaughton. And that was never brought up. I would still like to find out whether or not that actually happened. My sources are telling me yes, but trying to get somebody to confirm on this side has been very, very difficult because, you know, the politicians in Ottawa have always had a habit, Mark, of if we don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. And I think we're seeing that in this point. But now, with this latest article from CTV News and Daniel Otis, we actually have it on record through paperwork that former Defense Minister Harjit Sajjan was briefed by a committee of United States people who have gone along their ways of trying to build the bridge between Canada and the United States.
And I know you had a hand in this. And I hope you're happy to take credit for at least your role in this.
I made history, buddy. I made history.
And we'll be talking about that. Let's listen a little bit to the CTV story about Sajjan having been briefed on UFOs.
Oh, seems a little strange at first. That's exactly what happened, though, last summer. Harjit Sajjan, who was the federal defense minister at the time, received a briefing last June on, yes, unidentified flying objects. Documents obtained by ctvnews.ca reveal it came after a lot of media coverage last summer over a similar report that was delivered to the U.S. Congress in Washington. That showed the U.S. government could not give a definitive explanation for a number of weird aerial phenomena that were spotted by U.S. military pilots. Sajjan's briefing included a 5-page slide presentation, which detailed an overview of Canadian cases and procedures as well. Let's bring in Paul Delaney. He's Professor Emeritus of Physics and Astronomy at York University. This is a fun one, Paul. What do you think? To be a fly on the wall.
Yes, indeed, Todd. I always get a bit of a chuckle over these types of news reports because, of course, UFOs, or as they're now commonly referred to, unidentified aerial phenomena, same thing as a UFO, are by definition unidentified. And there are literally tens of thousands of reports around the globe every year.
All right, so here's the academic that CTV wheeled in to talk about this. I don't know. What do you make of this? This guy seems to be taking almost kind of a jokey.
And that's obviously from somebody who has not studied the phenomena or checked in with his fellow peers from the Scientific Coalition of UAP Studies that this is a serious topic at hand. Look, many in the scientific community do not want to admit that UFOs are here. If all he had to do was talk to Simon Fraser University professor Paul Kingsbury, who is a part of the SCU board of directors, to know that this is something of a phenomena that is real, and there is high points of evidence. But these astronomers, whether it's Paul Delaney or Neil deGrasse Tyson down south, they become so educated and so expert in their fields that their arrogance starts to exude. And they don't think that if it doesn't come from them, it's a bunch of bunk. This is where you have to tell these academics, do your homework. And I could name a number of doctors, professors who have very much dipped their toes into the UFO world and have come out saying, my God, this phenomena is real. So did I expect CTV to do any less? Of course not, because that's what the media does in this country when it comes to this story. They don't want to cover it. They don't know how to cover it. They still want to play with Little Green Men and Marvin the Martian and the X-Files theme song. And it's ridiculous. And every time it's funny, Mark, outside of Saga 960, there is not another radio station in Canada that is truly looking into this phenomena and covering this phenomena at such a consistent basis. And this is why our listeners at Saga 960, your listeners, when you bring me on, and my listeners throughout the night, that's where they benefit. That's where they win. And that's why, because of this subject, we're starting to see a lot more listeners tune in, because people do have curiosity about this subject. They may not believe, they may be skeptical, but maybe, just maybe, they had a little bit of an experience that they want to believe. And having people like Paul Delaney come in there and laugh it up and chuckle it up, it really showed that CBC had zero knowledge of how to cover that story, just like most media outlets.
Yeah, that was CTV. But I got to ask you, as I turn this phone off, I tell you who is treating this seriously is the House panel in the United States. A subcommittee of the House Intelligence Committee will be hearing a testimony shortly, Dave, from two Pentagon officials. And let's see, House subcommittee scheduled to hold, this is next week, the first open congressional hearing on unidentified aerial vehicles in more than half a century. Wow. That you're going way back to the years when of flying saucers, and
Yes.
The project, was it Blue Book at that point, or was it
Project Blue Book?
Right.
Yes.
All
Blue
right.
Book.
So the hearing comes after the release last June of a report requested. This is the same report, I guess, in which Sajan got the briefing on Congress on unidentified aerial phenomena, the 9-page preliminary assessment from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, focused on 144 incidents, Dave, dating back to 2004, and was
That's
able
right.
to explain a grand total of 1. So no wonder they want to have hearings.
Well, no, it goes a little bit beyond that now, because if you or any of your listeners have tuned in and watched what Congressman Tim Burchett has been saying lately, he has been rife with anger regarding this subject, Mark. And that is, he went on Fox News about a week ago, absolutely yelling and lambasting at the alphabet agencies and the United States military for covering up this subject. And he literally came out and said that we want disclosure. We deserve to know, all the way back to Roswell. Now, Roswell happened in 1947.
Yeah.
The way that the DIA report that came out last year has been professed is that they didn't want to touch anything prior to the USS Nimitz and Princeton encounter back in 2004 off the shores of Catalina Island in California. So, I mean, Mark, we're seeing a lot of anger. And the problem is, a lot of these politicians were numb to the subject prior to this. But as the information through the subcommittees and committees has come through, and that is courtesy of people like Luis Elizondo, people like Chris Mellon, who we've talked about numerous times on your program and mine, these people have been literally lobbying any politician to get on board and answering proper questions and giving them questions to ask the right people who are in the know. And because the Pentagon for so long has tried to say, hey, you elected officials don't need to worry about this. This is our point. We'll take care of this. And finally, we see the politicians standing up and saying, no, we were elected by the people. Our constituents are wondering about this. We're getting letters. We're getting phone calls and emails. We need to know what's going on. And that leads to Tuesday's hearings, which start at, I believe, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific.
Wow, can't wait for that one. I know you'll be keeping a close eye on that one. You talk about recent sightings. Here's one. Show you the quick picture here. This is in East Tennessee. Photographer was caught by surprise when he turned his camera to the sky, Dave. Nate Nelson, who owns Smoky Mountain Photography Excursions, took a photo of something that looks like a ring of lights. And on Facebook, he called the object a UFO. What does that look like to you?
To me, at first glance, it almost looks like he was photographing an eclipse of some sort, but it's not a perfect circle or anything along those lines. So, I mean, it's interesting. You know, this is what makes the phenomena so incredible. It is continually changing. It is continually very diverse with what people are seeing and experiencing. I love it. I think it's great.
Well, you'll be glad to know that swamp gas is not considered a possibility. However, meteorologist Ken Weather, the role he was born to play, meteorologist Ken Weather, said the object is most likely a balloon. According to Flight Aware, the only balloon above East Tennessee on that particular evening was a balloon from Project Loon. What is going on in Tennessee? Its altitude is 65,500 feet and is traveling at 10 miles an hour. I don't know. That doesn't look much like, I guess it's possible. I guess it's possible that it was a balloon.
Could be. We'll never know. That's part of the mystery.
Does that ever frustrate you? The fact that once you get past all the possible reasons, logical reasons, earthly reasons for what something is, once you've ruled out everything else and you're left with nothing, right? At the end of the day is it ET? Isn't it ET? We know it's not from planet Earth. And then you just move on. It's like, oh, well, in other words, there's nowhere else to go once you.
Well, I mean, Mark, it's the stupidity factor, my friend, of the United States government and people accepting this answer on social media that, hey, we know it's not Russia, we know it's not China, we know it's not a human adversary, and it doesn't look man-made. But we're not talking about aliens or extraterrestrials. Well, if it isn't from here, where is it from? Okay, if Joe the mechanic didn't lay his wrenches down to make this thing fly, where'd it come from? Who built it? Right? It's got to be built for somewhere. It just doesn't show up magically. Right. This isn't the magic school bus from back in the day. This is reality of what is starting to come through with the phenomena. And I don't understand people in this field sometimes. It's like we want to be skeptical so bad that we have to come up with inane excuses instead of accepting what the reality is.
Dave Scott, Spaced Out Radio, and you can hear Dave's terrific show on Saga 960 AM. And we just deal with this once a week, but Dave has to put together 3 hours of radio every night, and it's such a fascinating topic because you go beyond unidentified aerial phenomenon into Sasquatch, Dogman, all these other sightings of all these strange and bizarre creatures. Have you ever documented how many there are, if you include
Hundreds.
Loch Ness and
Hundreds of cryptids.
the weird, tall, gangly one. What's the shadow? What's that? That's
You got Shadow Man, Hat Man, Siren Man, Bloody Mary.
Oh, wait a minute. You got it. Siren Man. Whoa. Back up. Siren Man.
Siren Man. It's
Come on.
it's
I know
a
I've heard of
giant
I've heard of.
My son loves Siren Man. He's a 40-foot tall string bean of a character, except without a head. He has a big siren on his head. So, I mean, like an old World War II siren. Oh, yeah.
It's not called siren.
My son wants to get in here and give you the explanation on it.
Get him in there. He's excited.
Hold on, come on here. Tell him about Siren Head.
All right. So what's this young? All right. So what's this young man's name?
This is Colby.
Colby. Hi, Colby.
So basically, Siren Head killed you by eating you or making a really, really high pitch sound from its siren.
Okay.
And then
Okay. Siren Man.
and
Okay.
then your skin becomes black.
Thanks, buddy.
Okay, let me ask Colby. Is Siren Man a good guy or a bad guy?
Bad guy.
Oh, he's a bad guy.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Now we know.
But I know an enemy of him that's a good guy.
Okay, you got to hurry up.
Okay, who's a good guy? Dave.
Lawn horse.
Colby.
Lawn horse?
Yeah, it's basically an Ursa with a soul and an infinite neck.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Colby Scott.
Thanks, buddy.
And it also smells like cinnamon. And it's there to warn you about
You wound him up now, buddy.
Okay,
I don't know if
well,
he'll stop.
I got him going.
But you know, you look at gnomes, you look at gargoyles, you look at
All right, so here,
everything.
do you know what I'm looking at here? Siren Man. What is okay? Okay, this is considered a horror film.
Yep.
But does it have any actual footage of Siren Man? Oh, look at this. Let's have a look. Whoa. All right. That's a glimpse at Siren Man.
That's what we deal with, dude. It's what we deal with.
All right, Dog Man, right?
Yes.
Is there a cat man or cat woman?
There are apparently feline type aliens along with mantis type aliens. There is reptilians like alligator type.
Reptilians. I've heard about them.
You have fairies, you have gnomes, you have gargoyles, you have banshees and pukas and little Ewok looking dudes.
Okay, is Sasquatch the most common in terms of having been cited? Is that as close to a reputable thing that may actually exist?
I actually found tracks last weekend.
What? Whoa! Breaking news! Breaking news!
Hold on.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have pictures?
I went out there today. Before this, when you messaged me earlier today, I was in the forest.
All right.
Hold on.
All right. Well, I'm going to type this out and put up a banner. Finds Sasquatch tracks! Exclamation mark. Whoa! All right. Well, this is huge news now because
this is just a wild piece here of the casting, but the toes are really hard to see it here. This was our first time casting. I got to clean it up, but
can you put a little closer to? Okay, I'm gonna take myself. I'm gonna make myself a shrink in terms of the screen here just to show. Wow. Okay, so what am I? For the radio audience, what am I looking at?
What you're looking at is a casting of a Sasquatch track, believed to be a juvenile. This thing is only about 12 inches long. It is a right foot. It has a very high arch, a very deep heel, and there's something almost like a bunion or something on the big toe side. But it's
they could have been walking with a limp.
I don't know. Don't know, but we found some other prints in that area. And today we set up a gifting site in there to see how things turn out.
Actually, looking at a story in CNBC of all places, he got the FBI to test Bigfoot hair in the 1970s, and this 93-year-old man is still searching for, you guessed it, Sasquatch. Do you know anything about the testing that was done on the hair samples?
Yeah, for some reason, it took 44 years for the FBI to get back to the guy. And they got back to him as deer hair. There's actually a very interesting part to that particular story, though. At the time, the Pentagon had come out and said UFOs exist. Then the United States Navy came out and said, we're investigating UFOs. Then the CIA came out and said, we're investigating UFOs. And then the FBI comes out and says, well, we've investigated Sasquatch. This all happened within like 4 weeks in 2020. But on that particular case that they released, they deemed the hair to be human hair or deer hair, pardon me. All right?
Yeah.
It doesn't take 44 years to get back to a person and say, oh, by the way, we lost your category here and it was deer hair.
Why wouldn't they just say, we don't know what, I mean, if they were going to lie, why not say, well, it's undetermined?
Absolutely. Like, why does it take 44 years? Is there not enough mule deer or blacktail or whitetail out there to be able to figure it out? Like, come on.
All right. I'm down in Florida. Is there anything I should keep an eye on down here? Is there some kind of...
you know what? I got to hook you up with one of my guys, depending on where you are in Florida. Are you on the East Coast or West Coast?
I'm on the Gulf side. So that would be...
Okay, so you're on the West
side.
Coast.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and hook you up for an adventure to go look for the skunk ape.
Skunk ape? Okay.
Yeah, that's their name for Sasquatch.
I think there's definitely a skunk ape in Canada. I know that. I've been talking about him on my show quite a bit.
That one lives in Ottawa, does he not?
I don't mean to make light of this because there's a lot of...
Could you imagine if the Canadian skunk ape ever had to go on the television show to tell the truth?
I don't think he'd be capable of it. But listen, I've got to have another look at that track. Okay, so this is...
I haven't even watched... This is so fresh.
That is so cool.
I haven't even watched the dirt off of it yet.
This is a breaking story. Dave Scott not only finds a track, he doesn't just photograph it. He makes a plaster cast. All right, so did you see anything resembling hair or anything like that?
Nothing.
Was it just the one track?
Just the one. I mean, there were other tracks there. We casted another one. It turned out to be a boot. There was another 2 tracks that looked like boots, and a couple more that were inconclusive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that is really... Is that the first time you've ever seen something like that?
That's the first time I've casted one. I've seen castings before. That's the first time we've casted one here.
All right. On the trail of Florida's Bigfoot, the skunk ape is an imaginary creature. A case of mistaken identity ? Okay, so the first time that Dave Shealy saw a skunk ape, he says he was 10 years old. That was back in 1974, a few years after his father had come upon a set of footprints left by the creature, an Everglades version of Bigfoot named for its supposedly pungent odor. Dave was out deer hunting with his older brother Jack in the swamp behind his house in what's now Big Cypress National Preserve, and when he encountered an ape, the ape incarnate. I was walking across the swamp, says the man, and my brother spotted it first, but I couldn't see it over the grass. I wasn't tall enough, Shealy said. My brother picked me up and I saw it about 100 yards away. We were just kids, but we'd heard about it and knew for sure that we were looking at it. It looked like a man, but completely covered with hair. Well, there you go. What a compelling story that is. Skunk ape.
Skunk ape. We're going to send you out. We're going to use you as bait.
Is there a crocodile link thing? Because there's definitely gators here.
Oh, hey, where you're going to be going is right into the swamp, looking for this thing. You're going to be attacked by wild boars. You're going to be attacked by boa constrictors and pythons and alligators and manatees and snakeheads. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like fun. I don't know, Dave. I mean, I'm curious about this thing, but it's just you ever ask yourself what would you do if you found yourself face to face with something like that? Would you be so terrified that it wouldn't even occur to you to get your camera and your phone and take pictures or shoot some video? You know what I mean? We all think we know how we would react if we stumbled on ET, but something like that would be so mind blowing that you really don't know how you're going to react, do you?
No, that's the excitement about it. I did have something cool happen in the forest today.
Okay, talk to me about that.
We were. My buddy Paul was working on getting the track casted, and I was kind of playing lookout because we're in the middle of the forest. And all of a sudden, I just had this feeling that we were being watched. I said, "Paul, we are being watched right now. I could totally feel it." And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Where?" I said, "From behind me." And I turn and look, man, and about 75 feet away, there's a deer staring right at us.
So you knew
it was there.
Watched.
Didn't know it was there. I knew we were being watched by something, and turned and looked, and there's a deer there. And I'm like, well, that's good to know my intuition works.
Yeah, absolutely. And you had that story that you told in a previous episode where you felt you were being watched by something other than a deer, and it turned out you caught a glimpse of something moving in the woods.
That's right. Just keep your eyes open. That's all people need to do. Just keep their eyes open and follow that little instinct.
And you never know what
you'll never know what you see, my friend.
And keep
you'll
your
never
eye,
know what you see.
And keep your eye on the sky, Dave. I mean, that's because obviously who knows what you'll see, right? Florida. I mean, how often do you hear of UFOs in Florida?
All the time. All the time.
It's a hot spot.
Yeah, I mean, especially around the Pensacola area, and that whole area, even south of that, when you get to into the Keys, going into the Bermuda Triangle, there's a lot of light seen in the sky around there.
All right, so tell us what listeners can expect to hear from in the next.
Well,
few episodes.
We're gonna end the week talking to Carter Bouchard, one of my favorite Bigfoot authors and researchers. And we're going to finish off talking some Sasquatch with him. We're going to talk about what I've seen and going to show him the track and everything like that. It's going to be absolutely great to be able to talk some Sasquatch. Carter was actually one of the people who was at the Vegas party that we had just a couple of weeks ago. And he's just an incredible researcher, damn good poker player as well. So it'll be a mixture of poker and Sasquatch.
That's an interesting mix.
Yeah.
All right, Dave. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Always a great thrill.
No problem. Take care, buddy.
Dave Scott, Spaced Out Radio. Check out his show on Saga 960 AM from 10 p.m. Eastern to 1 a.m. Eastern time from Mondays through Fridays. Spine-tingling radio that will keep you up at night. All right. Dave is just terrific. And got to take a brief commercial break. Back with more on Newstalk Saga 960 and the Mark Petronas Show after this.